So pleased to welcome back Ambassador Robert C. O'Brien. Ambassador O'Brien, full disclosure, is a very good friend of mine until I retired from the active practice of law. He had been my law partner before he went into the Trump administration and became President Trump's national security advisor in the West Wing from 2019 to 2021. Now, of course, he is busy doing all sorts of different things in the private sector, but he found time to write an article for Foreign Affairs magazine, the Bible of the national security community is Foreign Affairs magazine. It is called The Return of Peace Through Strength. And this article has just basically gone everywhere and gotten everyone commenting about everything. It was the topic of discussion in the Commentary Magazine podcast yesterday. So I called up the ambassador and said, can you join me to talk about the return of peace through strength? Good morning, Robert. Welcome back. It's good to have you.
Good to be with you, Hugh. Thank you.
I want to begin by showing a portrait of Andrew Jackson, because you say it's time for a return to the Jacksonian approach to American foreign affairs. What exactly does that mean, Ambassador?
Well, it's accepting the world as it is, realizing who our friends are and who our adversaries are, but being clear-eyed about where we can make a difference and where we should intervene overseas, and no endless wars, and but standing up for American interests when they're at risk.
Now, the article was accompanied in Foreign Affairs by a picture of the former president and future president with Xi Jinping. And the article, after you mentioned Jackson, really drills down on China. Is that the primary focus of American foreign policy under a second President Trump term?
Well, it has to be, and it should be the primary focus of American foreign policy now under President Biden. I mean, the Chinese are a threat to our way of life. It's not just that they're a faraway country that has a communist party that is Marxist-Leninist and oppresses their own people. They're on the march around the world, but they're on the march in the U.S. They've got farmland, Hugh, around all our military bases. They fly spy balloons over us. If someone gets out of line and criticizes the Chinese, like the general manager of the Houston Rockets, they cancel them and threaten to cancel the NBA. So they're not just denying free speech in China, they're denying free speech here in America. This is a threat to our way of life. It's a threat to the way our kids and grandkids will live. And if we don't recognize it with clear eyes and understand the danger that the Communist Party of China poses, we're in real trouble.
Governor Burgum was my guest yesterday, and he's on the short list for vice president. You've been on some of those lists as well. Neither here nor there. What he said, though, mattered a lot. He said China is hugely dependent on oil imports, and they're hugely dependent on food imports. And Governor Burgum said, we've never used that leverage on them. Do you think we should?
We should use every bit of leverage we can against the Chinese because they've done that to us. When people talk about us decoupling from China, the Chinese have decoupled from us. They've had a plan for years to pull all of our industrial manufacturing might and pull it out of America, especially the heartland, places where you grew up in, like in Ohio, and take that lock, stock, and barrel to China. I mean, Christopher Wray said in a speech in the Trump administration that the greatest transfer of human wealth in history, Hugh, was the loss of American and Western IP to China. And what they do is they steal the designs, they steal the innovation, they steal the inventor's idea. But that's not. It's not just doing that. It's not just ripping off an inventor. They then take the product and they make it in China for cheap, using cheap labor. They state subsidies. And then they turn around and dump the product back in the U.S. and undercut the inventor's company or the company that bought the rights from the inventor and put them out of business. And now that industry's gone in America, and we're totally reliant on the Chinese for the product. So it's not just the profits or the royalties from the inventor. It's literally wiping out whole industries in America. They've been doing this for 40 years, and we've got to stop it. We've got to get strong again.
The second part of the article is about Iran. And the subhead is, the true source of tumult in Middle East is Iran's theocratic regime. I spent a half hour with Ambassador Oren this morning, and that is absolutely true. The Washington Post this morning says they are 3 weeks from breakout. They are enriching uranium at 3 times the speed they were under Trump. Now they're doing that under Biden. They are 3 weeks away from breakout. Do you expect Joe Biden to do anything at all about that?
Unfortunately not. Iran is a real weak point for the Biden administration. They believe, like the Obama administration did, that Iran could be our friend, and that if we apologize enough to Iran, if we grovel enough to Iran, if we pay Iran enough ransom for hostages, that Iran will like us. And then while the people of Iran probably do like us and want freedom, the regime, the theocrats, the ayatollahs, and the mullahs hate us. They hate our way of life. They hate everything about us. And imagine these people who hate our guts, hate our allies, hate Israel with a nuclear bomb. Imagine being a president trying to decide to send a carrier into the Red Sea or into the Persian Gulf to defend American allies, knowing that the Iranians could drop a nuclear bomb in the carrier and wipe out 5,000 American soldiers. Imagine being Israel. What Iran is called a one-bomb country because Israel is so small, one nuclear bomb could kill all the Jews in the country and accomplish what the Holocaust did and wipe out the Jewish people. So it's an extraordinarily dangerous situation. We cannot allow them to get a bomb. But unfortunately, I think the Biden administration thinks that they'll be responsible actors with or without a bomb, and that's just a huge flaw in their thinking.
It's been the profound disability of the Obama administration, the Biden administration, is the failure to deal with reality. Ben Rhodes has a piece in the same edition of Foreign Affairs, the Metternich of MSNBC. It's crazy. It's just absolutely crazy. They live in a fantasy world. I want to ask you to go back to before you became National Security Advisor for the president, you were his special envoy on hostage affairs. And President Trump saw the return of, 50 Americans who were held hostage? Right now, there are between 5 and 8 Americans being held by Hamas. One of them, of course, Hirsch Goldberg Paulin, and his parents will be my guest future. When you dealt with these bad regimes, you never, ever bought hostages. You never, ever negotiated with the terrorists. What does the Biden administration think they're doing? They don't even mention the names of the Americans.
No, there used to be a time when Hamas killed 30 Americans in the attack on October 7th. We forget that. They took probably a dozen Americans hostage. There used to be a time under Ronald Reagan, Hugh, that you remember well, when PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, terrorists took Americans hostage or killed Americans like Leon Klinghoffer on the Achille Lauro. And what did Ronald Reagan say? You can run, but you can't hide. We're going to take it out on you, and we're going to rescue our hostages, and we're going to kill the evildoers. These guys are confused, and you talked about Ben Rhodes' piece. He's very sweet on Hamas now, and they think Hamas is like some sort of NGO and legitimate government organization. Hamas is as bad as ISIS, and instead of dealing with them the way Trump dealt with ISIS, destroying the physical caliphate and bringing justice to al-Baghdadi and trying to rescue our hostages, they're trying to buy off Hamas with foreign aid, with this pier and that we've built out into the Mediterranean to give them hundreds of millions of dollars in aid, and yet there's no commitment from Hamas, even in light of all the money we're showering on them, to returning American hostages. They can't even do a ransom deal properly. I mean, it's just a disgrace. And this is piece of strength. If they understood that we were coming for them, they'd let the hostages go. But they know we're not coming for them, and so they hold American hostages with impunity. It's a terrible situation.
There's been quite a lot of debate since your essay appeared about your being the Secretary of State in waiting, and Donald Trump authorized this, and this is really what Donald Trump thinks. I've known you a long time. You're incredibly modest about the fact that you write for yourself. You don't write for former President Trump or then candidate Romney. Would you just put to bed the idea that you're just basically putting this out there as the Trump foreign policy, the Trump doctrine? The article itself says it's silly to talk about a Trump doctrine, that it doesn't exist in terms of some phraseology that exists.
No, I wrote about what I saw in the Trump administration and how I saw President Trump handle these situations, Hugh. And that's what the article's about. It's about the President Trump didn't, he talks about America first. He talks about peace through strength. And what people don't understand, and it's paradoxical, is that Trump's a tough guy and a strong American leader. But that strength led to peace deals. We got peace deals in Serbia, Kosovo. We got peace deals with the Abraham Accords in the Middle East, which people said could never happen. We got a peace deal in the Gulf between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Egypt and UAE. I mean, we even had a peace deal in Afghanistan that prevented for a year an American dying in combat in Afghanistan, which is very important to the president. that unfortunately that deal got screwed up with a catastrophic withdrawal and retreat of America from Kabul in 2021. But because President Trump was strong, we had peace. There was no nuclear testing in North Korea. There was no invasion of Ukraine. There was no threatening of Taiwan the way we're seeing today. So we were the first administration to have a situation where no new war was entered into, no war was expanded, and we actually had a victory in a war against ISIS. That hasn't happened since Jimmy Carter, 50 years ago. So it's paradoxical, but what I want the American people to understand is that the strong America leading from the front, it actually deters our adversaries and leads to peace deals and peace in the world. But a weak America, or an America that's perceived as weak, is provocative to our adversaries, and they think they've got a chance to take a gap and undermine us and pursue their national interests and do things like invade Ukraine and invade Israel.
A last question, Ambassador O'Brien. More than 10 million illegal immigrants have crossed the southern border under Joe Biden. Michael Waltz on this program said he's very, very worried about a terrorist attack. Are you, in the United States, a terrorist attack in the United States, coming from, we've had murders, rapes, et cetera, from people who crossed into the country illegally. What about terrorism? Are you worried about that?
I'm very worried. It's a scandal. In fact, it's so worrisome that Michael Morrell, who was Obama's acting director of the CIA and was one of the infamous signers of the 51 intelligence professionals who said that Hunter Biden's laptop was fake and was a Russian ploy. So this is no friend of Donald Trump and a committed, hardcore Democrat, and maybe claims to be an independent, but hardcore partisan against Trump. Even Michael Morrell has said that all the danger signs are there. Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, has said he's never seen the lights flashing, the red lights flashing, danger like he has today. The border's wide open. We just arrested 6 or 7 Uzbek terrorists from ISIS. Millions of people have come over. Hundreds or thousands of them have to have been terrorists. And that doesn't include the Chinese military-age males. These guys are all fit, and they're here to sabotage us. And
that's the army within. I think it's Tajiks, not Uzbeks, but we're done with time. Ambassador O'Brien, I appreciate it. I know you got a TV hit coming up. I appreciate you joining me from the green room. Thank you, Ambassador Robert C. O'Brien.